I would like to call to order the regular meeting of June 8th for the Peters Township Planning Commission. Can we have a roll call?
Mr. Smith is not present. Mr. Cartophilis is not present. Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Salepis?
Here.
Ms. Corbel?
Here.
Mr. Magrino is not present.
First thing is the approval of minutes from last meeting in May 11th. Any comments, questions, concerns, changes to those minutes? If not, may I hear a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th meeting. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any reports or correspondence that's not in our packet tonight?
No.
Any site plans, subdivisions filed for review?
Nope.
The agenda is as is, no changes?
Correct.
Do we have any audience comments, remarks that is not pertinent to any of the agenda items tonight? Hearing none, we do not have any old business, and so we'll move into new business. Our first order of business is a recommendation called the Brown Consolidation on 225 Droitwich Road Drive.
All right, so go ahead. Kevin and Catherine Brown, owners of 225 George Drive, have submitted an application for subdivision for the Brown Consolidation Plan. Currently, the property is comprised of two existing parcels known as lots 33 and 34. Lot 34 is located in the corner of George Drive and Highwinds Place, the latter of which is a private road. Lot 33 is located to the southeast of Lot 34 with access available only via Highwinds Place. Lot 34 is improved with an existing two-story brick and frame dwelling which serves as the Browns' residence, and an asphalt drive provides access off of Highwinds Place. Concrete patio at the rear of the residence is located on both lots. Lot 33 contains a frame shed approximately 130 square feet in size and a 12-inch stone wall. A 15-foot Peters Township Sanitary Authority sanitary sewer easement is currently present along the northeast side yard of the property, primarily in Lot 33. An overhead West Penn power wire runs through the southeastern corner of the property and connects to an existing pool within the Highwinds Place right-of-way. The residence is served by a second wire connecting this pole to the primary structure. The applicant proposes an extinguishing of the current lot line to consolidate the property into proposed Lot 1. A portion of the existing PTSA easement will be eliminated as part of this plan as it will no longer be necessary. However, the area of the easement to remain will be increased to the current 25-foot PTSA standard. The 20-foot West Penn power easement will also be created centered on the aforementioned West Penn power wire traversing the southeastern corner of the property. The lots as they currently exist are both non-conforming, neither meet the minimum gross area, and Lot 34 does not meet the minimum lot frontage for the low-density zoning district. The proposed lot does meet these requirements. Overall, the consolidation will create one conforming lot from two non-conforming lots. Planning staff is recommending approval subject to two conditions: Sanitary Authority approval of the plan and Washington County Planning Commission review of the plan. Both these conditions have already been met.
So once this is done, it's one and done, it can't be re-subdivided, correct? Once it's consolidated?
Unless they could somehow create two conforming lots, but they would be hard-pressed to do that, I would think.
Impossible.
Yeah. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Seems pretty straightforward. Is there any comments from the audience about this particular item?
No.
Good. Rochelle, you see
Nope.
anything?
Nope.
Not hear any comments, maybe I could hear an action motion on this item.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the Brown Consolidation Plan subject to the two comments by staff.
Which have already been met, and I'll second.
We have a motion and seconded. All those in favor of this, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Second item is also a consolidation. It's the Snyder Consolidation, East McMurray Road and Thompsonville Road.
Variance?
I'm going to recuse myself. I represent Dr. Snyder.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Jim?
So we have John and John Snyder and J. John James LLC are owners of the properties located at the corner of East McMurray Road and Thompsonville Road. They've submitted an application for subdivision for the Snyder consolidation plan. Currently, the property is comprised of an inner and outer parcel. The inner parcel is located at the physical intersection of the roads, while the outer parcel surrounds it with frontage on both roads. The inner parcel contains a one-story brick building from which a Kogo's convenience store and BP gas station currently operate. 4 gas pumps and a canopy are located along the eastern side of the structure between it and East McMurray Road. The outer parcel is vacant and covered in trees. The applicant proposes an extinguishing of the current lot line to consolidate the property to proposed Lot 1. The plan has been proposed in anticipation of an application for site plan approval to convert the existing business into a Cone Markets convenience store and gas station. The new right-of-way will also be established as required by PennDOT, as the current right-of-way is within the East McMurray Road Cartway. No nonconformities are created by the proposed consolidation, and the proposed Lot 1 conforms to the dimensional requirements of the Mixed-Use Activity Center District. As I earlier noted, the application refers to the owners of one of the parcels, specifically the outer lot, as John and John Snyder. The final plan shows the owner of both lots as J. John James LLC. The applicant has stated their intent to transfer ownership of the outer lot to the LLC, and this will be required prior to final plan approval. Planning staff is recommending the Snyder consolidation plan be approved subject to the following: Peters Township Sanitary Authority approval of the plan, Washington County Planning Commission review of the plan, ownership of the outer parcel be transferred to J. John James LLC prior to the final plan being presented to Township Council for approval. The first 2 conditions have already been met.
So this is technically, it's not a final plan. Is it a preliminary? Because they're going to...
This is just a concept.
This is just the consolidation. They're
Okay.
coming
No
back
site-
through
like
for site plan later.
All right, okay.
We've heard on this before, though, right? They come-
Cohen.
The Cohen site plan was approved by Planning
Yeah,
Commission last
right,
year.
Right, okay.
The adjacent property became available.
Right, okay.
They're taking advantage of that, so you'll be seeing a brand-new
Right.
site plan later
Okay,
this year.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, good. Any audience comments regarding this item? Again, it seems pretty straightforward, Jeff, or you're out of it. No, Rochelle, any comments?
No. Not this one.
I'm not hearing any comments or concerns. Maybe we can hear an action motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve the Snyder consolidation plan as listed as the final plan, including the 3 conditions outlined in the proposal, 2 of which, or in the recommendations, 2 of which have already been met.
We have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. When will we get a site plan on this, you thinking? Next meeting?
Probably
One
later
after?
this year sometime.
September at the earliest.
Okay. All right, moving on to the third item on the agenda. It's the Pasquinelli Suite subdivision on Wellington Circle.
Donald and Catherine Pasquinelli and Andrew and Pamela Sweat are requesting township approval to adjust the shared lot line between their properties, known as Lot 211 of the Anthony Farms Plan of Lots Phase 2 and Lot 313 of the Anthony Farms Plan of Lots Phase 3, respectively. The proposed subdivision will allow Lot 313 to come into compliance with maximum lot coverage regulations. Currently, the Sweat property is 25,331 square feet in size. That's the lower one on that picture up there. It has a 2.5-story brick dwelling under construction. The Pasquinelli property sits to its northeast and is 33,868 square feet in size and contains a 2-story brick dwelling, 2,054 square feet in size. The shared lot line between the 2 properties is in each rear yard. The dwelling under construction on the Sweat property has a building footprint of 3,987 square feet, which exceeds what is permitted given the parcel's current area. This discrepancy must be addressed prior to an occupancy permit being issued. The proposed subdivision will convey an approximately 1,106 square foot strip of land from the rear yard of the Pasquinelli property to the rear yard of the Sweat property. However, even after this amount is conveyed, the Sweat property will still exceed the maximum lot coverage. Approximately 150 square feet of additional land will need to be conveyed, exceeding what is proposed. Planning staff is recommending the Pasquinelli Sweat subdivision plan be approved subject to the following. A revised plan be submitted that shows at least a total of 1,256 square feet being conveyed from the Pasquinelli property to the Sweat property, and both lots complying with all dimensional requirements of the low-density zoning district. Additionally, Pierce Township Sanitary Authority approval of the plan and Washington County Planning Commission approval of the plan.
So how did this happen? How did this happen? How did,
Seth can give more
So
background.
building permit was issued for the house.
right?
Some additional work was done, not necessarily in violation of the building permit, but it came to our attention that they were exceeding their maximum permitted lot coverage. As we identified the issue, we, let them know that we can't proceed, we can proceed with construction, but we can't proceed with occupancy until this is addressed through whatever manner is appropriate, preferably subdivision, rather than going through the variance process. They provided us a proposed subdivision plan. Jim took a look at the math a little bit closer one more time after the plan came in. We need the additional 150 square feet, which on two properties of this size is a pretty small decimal percentage, but we want to make sure that we get everything completely accurate here before we go to council for approval.
So I guess why is this here if this isn't going to solve it? Because it's going to have to come back again, right?
I consider it such a minor enough change that I don't think Planning Commission needs to re-review it once it meets all the
Okay.
dimensional requirements.
So
I mean,
we can-
if we were talking 1,000 square feet,
Yeah.
different, but 150 square feet, let's just get it right and get to council and be done with it.
So do we know where that's coming from?
It'll be coming from the Pasquinelli property. And
From Pasquinelli property? And is it just that the house is it the house itself that just is a little bit too
There's
big?
a house and like a covered porch on it that exceeds
Yeah.
the lot coverage.
Yeah.
This is under construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And these lot sizes are what? I mean, I know the square footage, but these are the quarter, or are they
These are larger than that.
these are how big?
These are pretty good sized lots.
The Sweat property is currently 25,331 square feet, and Pasquinelli is 33,868 square feet.
Just-
Translate that for me into.
Just
like-
under half an acre and over half an acre.
Okay, so they're larger properties then.
The Sweat property being the smaller of the two.
Yeah.
Obviously, Pasquinelli's got some room to work with.
Okay. But both of them almost half an acre or over half an
acre
acre?
or above.
Okay.
So that little bump out into the Pasquinelli property.
It's going to be ever so slightly more.
About a foot to two more is what we
So
estimate.
they just have to redo the survey and they're in,
Yeah.
they're
And
compliant.
like I said, it's minor enough that,
So our approval tonight will assume that they will proceed with that unless, and if they don't, you
It's
just
never gonna
want
go to
We'll
council.
never take it to council until we
Right.
see that.
Right,
correct.
okay. And they won't get their occupancy.
That's accurate.
All right.
Any audience comments on this item? Questions or concerns? Guys have any other questions? Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve the Pasquinelli Sweat subdivision plan, subject to the three planning staff recommendations and the notation that the additional 145 square feet need to be,
About 150.
150 square feet, minimum requirement needs to be resolved before it goes to council.
Do you have a second?
Second?
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Next item will be the Equine Estates subdivision and modification. It's a recommendation, and it's on Elizabeth Drive.
John and Ann Monroe, in conjunction with their neighbors, James Legesney and Teresa Panucci, are proposing a subdivision/minor land development plan that will create a cul-de-sac at the end of Elizabeth Drive, which is currently a dead-end road. This would be a 60-foot cul-de-sac with the creation of two large estate-style lots at the end of Elizabeth Drive and a half-acre lot along Thompsonville Road and retaining about 5 acres worth of land at the end of the, on the existing property at 267 Thompsonville Road. The plan does propose, as I'd mentioned, a 60-foot cul-de-sac at the end of Elizabeth Drive. There's some associated storm sewers extension created as part of this. It would be located within partially a portion of existing private right-of-way at the end of Elizabeth Drive. There's a section of Elizabeth Drive that was never dedicated to the township when it was paved. A portion of that existing private right-of-way will be utilized, and then a significant portion of existing lot, which is Lot 5 of the proposed plan, at the end of Elizabeth Drive would be utilized for the most of the remaining right-of-way, and a small portion of area from the Legesne-Panucci property would be obtained and dedicated as part of right-of-way for that cul-de-sac. So if you can envision this cul-de-sac terminating off the end of Elizabeth Drive, doing a little bit of a right turn maneuver, and then being located kind of off the end before we get to a transmission gas line that we need to keep the cul-de-sac off of. In terms of the subdivision and the creation of these lots, all of the lots are compliant with the Township zoning ordinance. There is a modification for the creation of one of the lots on Thompsonville Road. Thompsonville Road is designated as a collector road. Per the Township subdivision land development ordinance, no new lots with direct driveway access to collectors, connectors, arterials are permitted. But this happens from time to time. I've taken an initial look at this. I don't have any concerns with site distance or any other problems that would really preclude a lot from being created on here. There's many other lots along Thompsonville, both to the north and south and across Thompsonville from this, so it's not uncharacteristic with the neighborhood. I do want to confirm site distance with the Township traffic engineer prior to council final approval of the plan, but I do not foresee any issues related to that. The second modification requested as part of this plan is for the actual cul-de-sac itself. The Township subdivision and land development ordinance calls for a minimum diameter of 80 feet for all cul-de-sacs. This is a bit of a unique situation. Elizabeth Drive is only a 40-foot right-of-way as it stands anyways. We're taking advantage of an existing section of private right-of-way, trying to finagle it onto private lots, all with the goal of establishing a cul-de-sac at the end of a currently dead-end street. We have been working with this developer for almost 2 years now at this point. The township has no issue with a 40-foot radius, 30-foot radius, 60-foot diameter cul-de-sac at the end of Elizabeth Drive as proposed. It would still function entirely as needed, and it would be a great thing to have at the end of a currently dead-end street. This would be a Planning Commission recommendation to council, and staff has provided a recommendation of approval for the Equine Estates subdivision and the associated modifications, subject to the 18 total conditions as outlined in my June 1st report to the Planning Commission. I'm happy to answer any questions. We have the applicant and their engineer with us tonight as well. Prior to this meeting, there were kind of some open-ended issues that we had with the project, working with the developer and their engineer, but we've made a lot of progress on that in the last couple days, so I'm fully comfortable with these 18 conditions that I've placed on this recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Seth, what is the sizes of each lot?
So, let me zoom in on that. The first two lots at the end of Elizabeth Drive, one is, I believe, just under 2 acres in size. The larger of the two is just over 2 acres in size. Lot 5 is approximately half an acre, if not a little bit more than that. 1.2. Thank you, John. Lot 6, the Legesne-Panucci property, just under that size, but not to be brought under any minimum lot size. The only one that's right at our minimum is the new lot on Thompsonville. It would be right at half an acre in size, and then they would be retaining 5 acres for the proposed Lot 2, which was where the existing house is located.
Can that Lot 2 be further subdivided at a later time? Is there any way that can happen?
In theory, sure. They would require additional modifications because of its location on Thompsonville. That would be the only preclusion at this point, assuming you meet minimum lot widths and size and those types of things. But
The way the roadway's going up there, would there be a way to like extend that would allow access to Lot 2 for some future development?
the cul-de-sac is not designed, nor you really have to wrap it across a gas line, over a stream, over a sanitary sewer line to get it to a point where it could service that Lot 5.
You mean service the Lot 2?
Yeah, sorry, the Lot 2. That would be very challenging at this point. In speaking with the developer and the engineer, I don't think they have any intention of doing that, but they can certainly answer that question.
Yeah, come on up, Mr. Harshman. Come on up to the mic, please. And sign in for something there.
One of the engineer's conditions, I believe, was that a note be placed on the final plan that those two lots, Lot 3 and 4, no further subdivision would occur
Yeah.
on those. Your
No-
question was regarding Lot 2, which does come off of Township. It's a 5-acre lot, so there's no plans right now, certainly, to do that, but to Seth's point, it's a possibility of...
But the access to Lot 1 and 2 is from Thompsonville Road,
Right.
and then 3, 4, 5, and 6 would be off of this cul-de-sac.
That's right.
Resident Drive cul-de-sac.
If that Lot 2, in theory, were to ever be subdivided, it was just recently lifted out of the conservation residential overlay, so it would be half-acre minimum lots.
And the size or the width of the Elizabeth Drive doesn't present any problems for,
It presents a problem now because it's a dead-end street. This is an improvement over a bad, not bad situation, but a less than ideal situation by getting a cul-de-sac down there.
creating the cul-de-sac will make like fire and
Yes.
garbage
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah, much more comfortable.
Number 11, does something like that have to go on a deed, the perpetuity statement? Is
It
that-
could. It's well-suited to have it on the subdivision plan, only because we always review the prior subdivision plan on any proposed plan. We don't necessarily review deeds as part of subdivision plans. For our purposes, it's best to have them on the plans, but certainly the deed would reference the plan that note would be located on.
In number 17, you think the fire department will,
I think they may need a new fire hydrant here. I'm working on their review and approval of this plan. The nearest hydrant is about 1,200 feet away, up Elizabeth Drive. They like to have them situated about 600 feet apart, if possible. So I'm still working with them on that.
is there city water on Elizabeth
Yep.
Drive all the way
Yep.
to that
Yep. There's
improvement?
full public utilities available at this location.
Any audience comments for this item?
Can I just ask another question?
Please.
Okay. So there's no way to make that circumference 40 feet instead of 30? It's just not possible?
Available now. It's just, I generally don't like to say things aren't possible, but this is one of those times where it just can't happen.
And I understand that it's in bad shape, or not a great situation, but a 30-foot radius, I assume it's a 40-foot radius for a reason. I'm trying to make more pavement if we don't have to, but just for like fire truck and things to turn around. Can one turn around at a 30-foot?
The township only gets liquid fuels money if it's an 80-foot diameter cul-de-sac.
Okay.
That's kind of why the standard.
That's why it's that? Okay. And it doesn't-
60-foot works. 60-foot works.
Okay. So this will work for whatever fire trucks and things, service vehicles that we have that would go there? Okay.
Public Works, snow removal, garbage, fire,
Okay.
EMS.
That'll all work for them?
Yes.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit more about the new lot along the roadway for the collector designation?
Yes,
Yeah.
lot 1.
I understood what you said. So if we have this requirement, but you said there's a lot of them along Thompsonville anyway, have we just been approving modifications over and
No,
over again? Or did they
pre-existing
pre-exist?
Yeah.
Okay.
And our determinations of collectors and connectors are, I don't want to say heavy-handed, but, the entirety of Thompsonville it varies from one end to another, and this is a location where there's many homes along this section of road. It wouldn't be abnormal to have another home located along this section of road. Again, I want to confirm site distance, but I don't have any immediate.
So there
concern.
hasn't been any type of traffic study yet?
No.
Two?
No.
Was there one when Juniper was constructed, Mike?
I was going to say just about the Lot 1. Seth had emailed me earlier in the week to do this. I was down there today,
Okay.
and there's not going to be a site distance problem for Lot 1. So I owe Seth a letter for that, like
Okay.
he said, for his condition.
So you have done the analysis?
Yes.
And we're not close? It's not even
No,
close?
there's plenty of site distance out there. I think we noted there's like a utility pole or something in the way. There would ever be is it a utility pole or a tree or a bush? Or is there something down there that I got my notes back there, but it's something that's removable if somebody wanted to put a driveway there.
Okay.
These recommendations go to the next council meeting.
Probably not the next council meeting, but a future council meeting.
I'm good with it. I'd like to make a planning commission recommendation for the Equinine Estate subdivision modifications, subject to staff's 18 conditions.
I hear a motion. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the Tuscany 2 final plan. This is a recommendation at 339 Just About Road.
This is Planning Commission saw the preliminary plan for Tuscany 2, I believe, towards the end of 2022. It was ultimately approved by Township Council at their March 13th meeting and is now back before the Planning Commission for final plan approval. Just to revise everyone's memory, 339 Just About Land Company LLC is proposing the development of a 32.4 acre parcel of land located near the intersection of Just About Road and Sienna Trail. The proposed development is located under the Township's Conservation Residential Overlay for a total of 37 lots across the property at a density rate of 1.14 dwelling units per acre, which is well within the allowances of the Conservation Residential Overlay. The lots in the development range in size from just over a quarter acre in size to some that are over an acre in size. There are a couple lots that are proposed to have direct access to Just About Road at the southeast corner of the site. Those individual lots will require their own highway occupancy permits, and it'll be noted as such on the final plan that those are required prior to building permit issuance. The other roadway connection along Just About Road is an extension of the existing Victor Street that is located within the Tuscany 1 development. It was built as a stub street to facilitate the development of the adjacent property. And there are two cul-de-sacs proposed as part of the development, one that kind of goes towards the inner of the site, towards Just About Road, and then the other off towards the west that terminates in a temporary cul-de-sac adjacent to the Simmons property. There was a bit of a variation from what Planning Commission saw in part of their preliminary plan and what ultimately Council approved. During the preparation for Council final plan approval or preliminary plan approval, we determined it would be appropriate for there to be a 100-foot temporary setback adjacent to an existing peach orchard along the Simmons property. The EPA has regulations regarding the application of pesticides and other materials on crops, and the application method utilized by Mr. Simmons cannot be done within 100 feet of an occupied structure. So to kind of find a nice middle ground between this new project and allowing Mr. Simmons to continue to farm his property, the developer worked with us to establish a temporary 100-foot setback off that peach orchard, which would still allow for a home to be built on that property, or if the peach orchard is for some reason no longer farmed, that temporary setback would go away, and then the rest of the property would be available for a house to be constructed on just that one lot. It really only affects one lot within the proposed plan.
So that lot would become, it wouldn't be buildable.
It would be
under the
buildable.
current-
It would be. It would be. They could fit a lot. They could fit a house on that lot outside of that 100-foot buffer off that peach orchard.
So it'd have to be shifted.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. But if the peach orchard is no longer farmed, then that buffer would go away, and then the rest of that lot becomes available for the house to be constructed on. That's really the only change of significance that has occurred on the plan since Planning Commission last saw this. In terms of stormwater management, there's a stormwater management facility located within the development that will ultimately discharge into a creek that runs through the property. There's full availability of the extension of public utilities, including the extension of an existing Peters Township sanitary sewer line located at the southeast corner of the property, northeast corner of the property. As part of the proposed development, they are proposing 9.9 acres of open space, which is 31% of the total tract acreage. It exceeds the minimum requirement of 25% of the overall parcel. They are proposing the 40-foot buffer along Just About Road, as well as the landscape buffer along the Simmons Farm agricultural property as well. A geotechnical report has been prepared by the developer and their engineer, has been approved by the township's consulting engineer. There will be traffic impact fees that could be generated as part of this project, or those fees could potentially and will potentially be waived or credited to the developer if the improvements are made at the intersection of Sienna Trail and Just About, which we are still working with the developer on refining those plans and incorporating that into the development, but it is shown on the final plan in front of you this evening. Since this is a final plan approval, there are a number of conditions that will need to be addressed prior to consideration of approval by Township Council, but planning staff is making a recommendation of approval subject to the 20 conditions as outlined in my June 1st report. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. We also have the developer's representative here as well.
So the traffic impact fee on item number 8, I guess the preliminary plan was approved
Yes.
before we raised.
It was submitted.
Okay.
At the time of complete application, they're entitled to the existing traffic impact fee.
So that gets grandfathered.
Correct.
Did you want to mention about the trip count? Like, it's not exactly one per. The actual impact fee, because there's a new trip generation manual about 2 years ago, there's more than one trip per household now. It's more like 1.1. So when you calculate for this, it's 2 more trips than the number of lots. So it's not the old one trip to one trip.
Okay.
So Seth, I was going to tell you that in my last letter, the impact fee now is $16.07 per lot.
1607.
$16.07
34.
and 43 cents per lot.
Okay,
I would we increased it to 1750.
But again, that was under the old way, the 15,
Yeah.
25 times the number of trips, but then I divide it by the number of units, so it's just a slightly over the 1-to-1 that it used to be.
So I would like to revise condition number 8 to say the $1,607.43 traffic impact fee.
Okay.
Getting back to the temporary buffer, you said it only affects lot 211? Why would it affect 210 as well?
Technically, it reaches into 212 or 210, but it's not really outside of the already established setbacks, both side and front. So the lot it really only affects substantially is that lot 211.
So the EPA requirements say 100 feet. And so are we going exactly to 100? Did we build in anything extra there? Are we
went
right
with
at
100
the
feet that the EPA says.
100 total feet?
And it's not on the map, it's just stated? Is it
It's not on the map. On what map?
on the plan?
It is on, it's that green line right there, Dave.
Should,
I'll trace it for you. This green line.
oh, that.
And it will be on the land development plans, it will be on the final plan for recording. There will be a note on the final plan regarding the nature of it being temporary. It will be covered on all bases.
So to make sure we understand it then, so even with the 100-foot buffer, somebody could build a house on both of those lots and be in compliance with that, but when they purchase that land, whoever buys it will be told, all these houses around you might be 4,000 square feet. You can buy this lot and build a house on it, but it can only be, let's just say, 3,500. I'm just using numbers. And the people that buy will understand that, and that'll be written into their purchase agreements and things like that.
Steve?
Steve and Victor Wetzel Associates. The builder is the developer, and so we received a house footprint from Mark Hoskins, and that's what we placed on there to make sure that there was ample room between the side side setbacks, et cetera. The location of the orchard was determined by aerial photography, so we knew exactly where it was, and then from that we created the 100-foot setback from the limits of the, we didn't go to the tree trunks, we went to the limit of the trees, so.
As far as where the branches and whatever would extend? Okay.
So the canopy of the tree
Yeah,
is...
these are, we don't believe that those trees will be there for an extended period of time. So that's why it's referred to as a temporary easement.
But temporary only means, I mean, that Mr. Simmons' farm can't be forced. I mean, this is something that's part of this development. Nobody can back and say we changed our mind, or
That's accurate.
this is part of the development plan. And then again, I just want to make sure, so for anybody who does purchase there, they'll understand that, like, no shed can be built there, no, and will there be some pool, no patios that are going to go off?
For as long as this temporary setback exists, yes.
And what has to happen for the temporary setback to be removed?
That's a good question. An official recognition that those trees are either
Would
not being...
Mr. Simmons have to sign a letter or make a statement?
Be the best way to
that
obtain that, yeah.
he will cease having a tree or, some whatever.
Or the type of
something.
application, right? So he could, continue to farm in that location, but if he's not
Different.
applying pesticides in the
Yeah.
manner that requires the 100-foot setback, then that could...
Right, so I just want to make sure, so let's say, I don't know, let's say another COVID hits or whatever, and so is there a time frame where, like, people are watching his peach trees to see, like, you didn't fertilize them 1 year or 2 years, and then so you have lost that if he doesn't actively do it for a certain period of time? Like,
We have not established like a time frame of...
okay.
It's our expectation that as long as the trees are there and standing, his right to continue those will be there, and our obligation to maintain the 100-foot setback. I think the most logical way to anticipate it is if he either cuts down the trees or he subdivides his property and it's in here for a subdivision purposes. Obviously, the farming is gone, and so the trees will come down. But
Yeah,
we're-
As the situation currently exists, and the trees and application of pesticide will continue, that lot, Mr. Hoskins thinks he can get a house and build currently without any changes on the Simmons farm.
We don't think we know. He gave us a specific footprint of the house he wants to build. We positioned it. We did also make an adjustment between the lot 211 and the 212 property line. We had some fat on 212, so we beveled it over to make sure that we had room. So no, we're very confident that there is room there. He is. If you're worried about this, he has no basis by which to come back in and ask for a variance, because
Right.
we're standing here telling you, he's already acknowledged he can make a house on 211.
So here's my question, though. So I'm assuming the EPA requirements and the 100-foot requirements are because of people living within so many feet, and if you're not able to live in a house that maybe is within 100 feet of whatever pesticides are being used for Mr. Simmons' farm to be operational, then, I mean, is there a line then that so that no kid then, like, runs into the rest of that yard, or they don't put a swing set there, there's not animals? I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious, but we're saying that you can't have a house that is surrounded by walls and on concrete and carpeting and things, but it's going to be part of somebody's yard, right?
Quite honestly, think in terms of what we're talking about. We're talking about putting an insecticide, because that's what he's trying to keep away from it. An insecticide on it, that product will be eaten. It's considered to be a safe product because he sprays it on the fruit, and he's allowed to sell it, and people will eat it.
Well, yes, I
So
mean,
there
like-
isn't. The EPA doesn't believe that there is a hazard, and also the 100 feet is sort of it doesn't stop at 101. His spraying may stop at 10 feet, 20 feet. We don't believe that this will prove to be any big hazard for this. Also, we don't even know if he does spray. He's just wanting to ensure that
Retaining his rights.
he's
right.
make sure that we don't do something that would
Limit his
sort of
rights
take
on his
something away
property.
from him.
No, of course.
If you would also look at an aerial photograph, it's quite ironic where he put his peaches. He intentionally put them close to the property.
Okay.
He had a whole big piece of property he could have put a peaches on, and not too many, it doesn't look like the trees have been there that long.
Okay.
He intentionally put them there to do something.
Okay, that's fine, though. It's
And it's
his
saying
property.
intentionally to do something to be, if you would, a nuisance.
Well,
And he has a
that's
right
your
to do- he has a
terminology, but
right
it's
to
his
it.
property. He can do what he wants.
But if he really, really, really wanted to preserve his long-term, I'm not going to bother my neighbor approach, he has a lot of property he could have put those trees on that were anywhere near our property.
Right, I mean, that's neither here nor there. He's using his property in a way he's
Yeah.
allowed to do so. So my question is just, we're putting this, we're using the 100-foot, and we're complying with the EPA and trying to do that. But is there some sort of warning or notification of the people who are buying the property that there's this 100-foot buffer? Those are more my concerns as far as, and then the legal procedures by which, because then you're going to have two people buy the property, and then they're, even if it's not the developer's variance or whatnot, two people that buy this property that own this land, and, they want to put things there, they want to do things. My question is just there be some sort of assurance that whomever purchases these two lots understands these procedures, and that we know before we have a final approval here, we know what the methodology is to terminate this nuisance that Mr. Simmons is, they're saying that he's created
Unlike-
here, which I don't say it is. I don't think it is.
On Lot 210, the temporary easement falls totally within the front yard setback. So there's nothing that, nobody can put a pool, nobody can put a swing set.
Okay.
Nobody can put an accessory structure on 210. So that is not really, it's on two lots, but it really has no effect on 210. It is only on the 211, and that is part of the recording document, so buyers will know.
What side's the sidewalk on?
Both sides. And the EPA regulations say inhabitated structure. It doesn't say pedestrian, sidewalks, dogs. So, I can only,
So even pool.
and it's not, it's not part of our zoning ordinance.
Yeah. So
we-
a pool
we
could go
reached-
there?
No, we consider those structures.
So what's that?
Depends on the size.
Here's a dumb question, Seth. What happens if the dog walks in there and licks the pesticide and dies?
Civil matter.
And could we somehow protect this board in the township by saying, by approving this, we have no liability?
I don't think we have any anyways.
By approving something that has potential pesticides if it
Well, the dog can walk in from any development, anywhere in that neighborhood.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
we have-
I'm not sure.
Somebody there's,
We have
This is
Orchard
on
Hill.
property that they
just
own.
trying to think about,
We have Orchard Hill on Sugar Camp that has actively farmed property
Are they-
in
are
the
they
open
spraying?
space.
I think they're all spraying. The question is when you own property, and then if it's a setback, because they're owning property within, mine is more a notification. It's a notice issue. It's
Right.
making sure whoever purchases
with-
the property has notice.
As with any restrictions on a property, whether it be setbacks or easements, it'll be on the recorded plan, the deed will reference the recorded plan. Gets to the point where individuals have to educate themselves and, understand what they're buying.
Yes, I get that, but what you're saying is we haven't identified ourselves. Do you know what I mean, what the recording is going to say, what the notice is, what the terminology is, or what the termination is going to be. So you're saying they have to, they have to educate themselves, but my question is, what is it that we're going to put out there for them to educate themselves about?
Well, we can have it clearly say on the recorded plan that the
Okay.
temporary 100-foot orchard setback exists for as long as the peach trees exist. I mean, if it's crystal clear as that way there's no time limit, there's no question of actively farming or not. If those trees are there, the buffer's there.
So what if he doesn't want to use it for peach trees anymore? He wants to grow apple trees, or he wants to
I think as
plant
long as
corn
he
there.
actively farms.
or ownership of the land.
What if he just wants to plant strawberries there and doesn't need to do the same application method?
But do we really want to get involved in a study of
We
of
have.
what?
We've engaged ourselves in this conversation.
But
This is
for
not-
this purpose, but I mean,
this
as far
This
as,
is not a requirement of the township zoning ordinance.
no, I understand.
We've gone, quite honestly, above and beyond in working with the developer and their designer to try to, make both parties amenable in this situation.
Except mine's a notice issue. I think that we need to make sure that whoever
And that
buys the property
will happen.
understands where
Is
we
there a
are.
condition that can be written in here to
Yeah.
get to that?
I'm sure there is, yeah.
Meanwhile, while we're thinking through that, is there any audience comments, just to check that box off? Guys good out there?
I mean, I'm entirely open to an additional condition that better describes the nature and,
Do you have it here in a?
I thought
in
I
a-
did, Rochelle, I really did.
I don't
but
see anything. I'm just looking for the word
I think,
temporary.
I took it off because everything to me on the plans, it showed it as temporary. It was, looking at the plans in preparation of this report, it met all my requirements. But I think if we were to add a 21 that, talks about a further note on the final plan of recording that describes the life, I guess, of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with just personally, I'd be okay with something that says, something along the lines of approved notice to, help me out here.
Well, you can
Approved notice
expand
to-
number 19.
Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. I glazed right over it. 19. The plan for recording include a note that the 100-foot orchard buffer will cease to exist once the adjacent Simmons property is no longer farmed.
There you go.
I would not like it to be no longer farmed.
Yeah.
No longer used as an orchard. The 100-foot setback doesn't apply to farming.
No,
It
I hear you,
applies to
Steve.
the fact that he has orchard and has the potential
No.
to spray.
Can we
I-
just
I-
reference to, will cease to exist once
Once
adjacent, or, no, I would just say once adjacent Simmons property, I would like to just reference the EPA regulation, which is the whole purpose of this, right?
So once the EPA regulations are no longer,
No longer apply.
because then I
Right.
think, yeah, I think that would cover everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Victor.
let's revise 19. The plan for recording include a note that the 100-foot orchard buffer will cease to exist once the associated EPA regulations no longer apply.
And then can we just add a 21 that notice of requirement 19 shall be provided to,
Well, it'll be on the final plan.
again, mine's a notice issue, just to make sure, because I mean, if you read this
But through-
and you're
through what-
buying, wait, just let me
what
finish.
mechanism?
What do you mean? Just, I would like something in whatever their
It wouldn't hurt to
purchase
just add
agreement.
21 and say just a notice. I mean, if it's already being done, it might be
Yeah.
redundant, but why not?
Well, I guess I just don't want to put a condition on here that I'm not confident.
My question is here is that we've talked this through, but somebody from, another, whoever comes in and buys this property, they're not going to know what a 100-foot orchard buffer means, right? How will they know that? How will they understand what that is?
It'll be on the plan for recording, as with everything, there comes a point where they, question setbacks and easements and those types of things. If we were to, I'm not even sure how we would incorporate a notice into the transaction of these properties.
So basically, in order to issue the building permit,
It would be on the plot
it's going to be on
plan.
the plot plan
Yeah.
to show the potential buyer.
But what is going to be on there? So if it says 100-foot orchard buffer, I'm just saying, how does a layperson know what a 100-foot orchard buffer is?
Well, what does a layperson know what a 100-foot setback is, or electric easements, or gas easements?
But this is something different. I mean, anybody can look up what a setback is and understand that. Orchard buffer isn't in any
There's
type
more
of dictionary.
complicated issues that
We
get disclosed.
have conservation easements on
Yeah.
plans.
Right.
We have stream buffers. We have agricultural
But they're explained
buffers.
somewhere. This is something special, right? This is something different that we haven't done before. So, I mean,
It's unusual, but I'm sure it's happened, right? I'm comfortable with 19 just being modified to
as Seth
Probably not.
so stated. Do you rest your case?
What if,
It's not the case, I'm just putting out things that
Michelle,
concern me.
what if 19 said the plan for recording and the plot plan for lot 211 include that same note?
Say that to me once more again.
So the plan for recording and the plot plan for lot 211,
Shall include,
yeah.
another thing with that. Okay, and then my only other question is this so that 5 years from now, you're not around, nobody's around, none of us are around,
5 years.
and somebody asks, somebody comes back and wants to argue about what the 100-foot orchard buffer means or is that explained somewhere that people can go back and look at that, rather than what we've heard here? Because down the road, somebody says, well, what did that mean? And people say like, oh, it meant, well, I don't know. It just gives some people something to argue about
We'll have it on
in
the
the
plan,
future.
we'll have it in all of our meeting minutes, we'll have it in staff
I was
reports.
going to say, just put it on the recorded plan, wouldn't you? I mean, I've seen things
it'll be on it.
with PennDOT, just thinking in PennDOT world, if PennDOT puts a special restriction on a property, you go pull that property, it defines what that is. Slope
That's what I'm
easement, it
talking about, is
talks
the
about, like,
definition.
it puts the paragraph on that.
That's all I'm asking,
Plan.
looking for, is something that explains to somebody else what a 100-foot orchard buffer is.
So what you're saying will be what will happen except in a DEP.
Something maybe to the extent that there's a note on the plan, I'm sure there's notes, we'll just add one more, that just says the 100-foot orchard setback means no structures may be located within that until such time as.
There you go.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And a good homeowner down the road is going to get a property survey done, and a good surveyor is going to pull that plan and find that. Right.
Seth, you'll give us the specific language you want, and we will
Copy
add
and
that.
paste it right out of the EPA language.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll absolutely happy to put that.
That comes up on
That way we define it for
homes all
you.
the time.
That's
I get
fine.
calls all the
Yes,
time.
yes,
Hey, I
ma'am.
don't understand what this PennDOT thing is.
Anything
Just random people call.
Michelle, you,
yep,
anything else?
nope, I'm good.
Having seemed to answer all of our questions and concerns, maybe I could hear an action motion on
Discount
this.
survey, who knows?
I'll make
That's
a motion
right.
that the Tuscany 2
$150
final
survey, you don't know
plan,
what you're getting.
as outlined in staff's memo dated June 1st, be approved, including the 20 conditions set forth in staff's memo, in addition to the modified number 19
And number 8.
and 8.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Good night.
Thank you. Item F, it's a recommendation as well. This is for the Winter Circle. It's a consolidation at the corner of Water Dam Road and Galley Road. Who's presenting?
I am. So Winter Circle LLC has submitted an application for subdivision review for the Winter Circle Consolidation Plan. It's been submitted in conjunction with the Water Dam Galley Apartments request for site plan approval being considered later tonight. The property is currently comprised of 5 separate parcels in Peters and North Strabane Townships in the vicinity of the intersection with Water Dam and Galley Roads. The property is approximately 14 acres in size, with trees along the southern and eastern sides of the property. The stream, which serves as the municipal border, enters the property from the west and flows generally to the southeast before exiting the property to the south. The 2-story brick and block building, roughly 3,625 square feet in area, a brick building, approximately 625 square feet in area, and a block shed, about 64 square feet in area, are located in the northeastern portion of the property. The applicant proposes to consolidate the parcels into 2 lots known as Lot 1A and Lot 1B. Lot 1A will be approximately 12 acres in area and comprise the portion of the property located in Peters Township. Lot 1B, comprising the portion of North Strabane Township, will encompass the remaining approximate 2 acres. The applicant also proposes to raise the existing structures in anticipation of the proposed Water Dam Galley Apartments. Lot 1A would conform to all applicable dimensional requirements of the Mixed Use Activity Center District. Lot 1B's conformity with North Shebane Township zoning was outside the scope of our analysis. We will defer to North Shebane Township on their making this determination. Planning staff are recommending with the Winter Circle consolidation plan be approved subject to the following: Peters Township Sanitary Authority approval, Washington County Planning Commission review of the plan, about 5 typographical errors from the plan that have already been corrected, a reference to a maximum setback be removed from the zoning table in order to accurately reflect the current zoning ordinance, and North Shebane Township Planning Commission review and North Shebane Township Board of Supervisors approval of the plan. An updated plan was submitted to the township this morning, which addresses those conditions, those typographical conditions I mentioned. This is the plan shown on the presentation, and I have hard copies on hand if anyone would like to review them in more detail. Planning staff have also engaged our counterparts in North Shebane. They have acknowledged receipt of the plan and their responsibility in the approval process.
Okay, Jim, thanks.
Have we heard anything regarding traffic issues?
We can talk, do you want to talk about that as part of the consolidation or part of the site plan?
Yeah, that's kind of, this is just the
We'll
consolidation.
be there next.
Yep.
I don't see any problem with this. Is there any comments from the audience? Well, the audience is probably the applicants. I don't have any concerns or questions about consolidation. It's pretty straightforward and expected.
Did North Shebane already meet and make,
Not to my knowledge, I was engaged with their planning director last week, and he said he had just got it, so I'm assuming they're just a little bit behind on the process with us, but there's signature blocks for their planning commission and their board as well, so it will be, it will need to be done before it gets recorded in any case.
So everything gets erased, all the sewer easements, everything just gets a clean,
Blank slate.
clean slate. Yeah,
I do want to just make one comment about
Come on
that.
up, Ben.
Yes.
Speak up for the folks at home there, Mike.
And sign in, I think there might be.
Sure. Mike Galetta with Gateway Engineers. I assisted with the plan development here. One thing I just want to note is the sewer easements will remain. So we're obviously, we've put the plans in front of PTSA, so they're aware of the project as well. So there's a sanitary sewer and a storm easement. Both of those will remain. The rest of them get removed.
Oh, okay, I see that now. Thanks for that correction. Just some of the old stuff is being wiped out.
Yeah, I mean, just because of the nature of this being 5 lots before, there were a few easements in there just for future utility connections that are no longer needed. So it cleans up the plans quite a bit.
were there any issues related to Primrose School that is adjacent to this property?
As it relates to this
Is it-
consolidation plan,
I know there was that wall, that retaining wall that they, did that,
and no issues with this plan that I'm aware
okay.
of.
I don't have anything, any questions or comments. Rochelle, any
Nope.
thoughts? Can I hear an action motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the Winter Circle consolidation plan with the 8 planning staff recommendations.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Recommendation passes unanimously. And that moves us on into the site plan approval of the Water Dam Galley Apartments on Water Dam Road and Galley Road.
All right. Al Nyer, LLC, currently has the property under agreement in the aforementioned consolidation plan. The portion of property in Peters Township is about 11.92 acres. On that piece of property, they are proposing a 5-building, 180-unit multifamily development with associated parking, landscaping, lighting, utilities, everything that comes in as part of a site plan. Once again, this is the property we're talking about near the intersection of Water Dam and Galley Road. On the screen is a proposed site plan showing the 5 buildings, the associated parking around the property, the main ingress and egress on Waterdam and Galley, the other ingress and egress along Galley Road. Shown in orange are proposed covered parking areas. Those are not required by the Township zoning ordinance, but they are free to propose covered parking areas. Within the property is a centrally located recreational area with, currently they're proposing a swimming pool. The project consists of 3 underground stormwater detention tanks. They'll ultimately discharge in multiple locations, I believe, throughout the site, but there is a detention facility at the southwest corner that will discharge into an existing stream that traverses the property near the border with North Strabane. In terms of on-site landscaping, they are proposing a significant number of high and low-level screenings to facilitate buffers along the ingress and egress on Waterdam Road, along the main drive on Galley Road, along the northern property, near the stormwater detention facility, and along the border with North Strabane, as well as throughout the site in terms of both near the buildings and throughout the proposed parking areas. The buildings proposed are each 3-story walk-up garden-style apartments that, as of right now, are fully compliant with all the height, size, any type of FAR coverage requirements of the mixed-use activity zoning district. Earlier this year, we eliminated the maximum front yard setback in the mixed-use activity district, which would previously have required a structure to be no greater than 25 feet away from both Waterdam and Galley Road, but that is no longer a requirement of the Township zoning ordinance. As it stands, this project is fully zoning ordinance compliant, with some comments to still be addressed by the Township consulting engineer on this project, Lennon Smith Solar Ray Engineering, LSSE, as well as the Township's traffic engineer, traffic planning and design, who is with us this evening. In regard to on-site traffic, Jeff, and I'll let Mike speak to this in a little bit more detail. They have provided the Township with a traffic study. They have provided that study to PennDOT. The study has indicated that no improvements are triggered at the intersection of Waterdam and Galley, predominantly due to the distribution of trips from this site. Perhaps Mike can be more eloquent about this, but essentially trips that go down to Waterdam are going to head towards 19. Trips that go towards Galley are going to go into North Strabane. There's very minimal impact on the actual intersection due to the lack of destinations on that end of the township, and the trip study just doesn't show traffic utilizing the actual intersection as associated with this project. As it stands, staff has reviewed this plan in compliance with our zoning ordinance. There were some minor issues that we have gone through and back and forth with the developer on. There are some cleanup items that still need to be addressed by the developer per the Township's consulting engineer, but at this point, I'm fully comfortable making a recommendation of approval. This is a site plan, so it's final approval by the Township Planning Commission. The consolidation plan will go to council, but the actual site plan does not go to council. Therefore, staff is making a recommendation of approval subject to the 22 conditions as identified in my June 1st report to the commission. I'm happy to answer questions. We have the applicant and their consultants with us this evening, and they've also prepared a small presentation tonight.
So the exit from the property going to Waterdam Road will be a left turn only. Is that what you're saying?
It's not designed that way, but
I thought you said the exit that will go to Waterdam Road will feed towards 19.
They just expect that.
that's how that's how people would leave the site, and that's the direction that the model predicts that they would go, is towards 19 rather than take the right to go down Waterdam.
I got you.
So it's designed as a full-service entrance. Both of them are.
Right and
It's
left
just
hand.
how people navigate in and out of the site.
So wait a second, you're saying they're gonna make a left on, well, this is
They
right
can
on-
make a left or right
Yeah,
on Waterdam.
But the expected traffic will go towards 19, and the other one will go towards the inner.
Yeah, and what's great about this plan, and it's nicely done with the traffic to avoid overloading that problem intersection that we have, because they're putting driveways on both roadways on the side of where people want to go, not making them go through the problem intersection. There's very little traffic that they're actually going to send to Waterdam and Galley Road. It's just, the nature of where it is. It's residential. We worked with Gateway Engineers. We do what's called a population gravity model. Using census data, we find out where people live down here and where they work based on census data, and that's how we determine these trip models for this type of development.
How close, the exit to Water Dam, how close is that to the driveway that goes where Grande Restaurant is?
It's north of the property, obviously, it's not on this property.
I know.
It's about here, a couple hundred feet.
Because across Water Dam is the entrance to where Rite Aid and, Panera and all those, that plaza. And it gets hairy for people trying to need to go across traffic.
To cross, yeah. Yeah.
Mike, would there be any turning lanes? There is a turning lane for Ace Hardware Grande.
Right.
Would there be a turning lane?
So where they're at, we looked at, that's the things they look at. They look at turn warrants for every driveway. Left turn, right turn, into every development. And that was one of the things that we were really adamant about too, because, we recently just saw, just within the last 10 days, there was a tweak to the plan. We caught the trips change, and that was my big concern, and Gateway did a great job turning around quickly, showing that these traffic warrants for these turn lanes aren't met. I will say the location of the driveway on Water Dam is it's painted out like a median right now with the hatching in it, but they don't require they don't meet the warrants for a left turn. PennDOT's it's their road. PennDOT's not making them do anything, but there is a hatched out area out there.
Okay.
As kind of a buffer area. I don't want to say people how they're going to use it, but they might use it as a turn lane, but it also gives a little bit of separation, to your point, how it gets a little hairy down at the other intersection closer to the signal. Right. This intersection is going to be far enough away from the traffic light that, if traffic's backing up from the signal down to here, it's an off day, something's going on, you know what I mean? This is not normal for traffic to back up this far.
Primrose, do they have an access directly to Water Dam, or do they have to go to Galley?
They line up against Old Water Dam.
Right.
Okay.
They can go either way. On Galley, they have one way out.
But they also have that access point to Galley.
Right.
Yeah, one way.
Everything down here, it's residential, so they're going for work and for shopping, and that's all that way. None of it comes down to Galley and Water Dam. There's some traffic, but not substantial that causes issues.
Will there be any proposed like trails or walking areas to get down to the shopping areas? Because obviously Water Dam is not sidewalked.
Does the applicant, you have a short presentation, don't you? Do you want to give that now?
We do. I think a lot of it, Seth did a really good job just explaining the project already, so I'll try not to be redundant, but we have some other renderings we can show you guys to give you a little bit more
that'd be great.
insight as to what we're doing here. Yep.
To close out your presentation, Jeff.
No, I just minimized it there.
Sure. Is this the? You loading up right now? Yeah. Before we get into that, maybe if it's okay, I just have some initial comments. So I'm Pat Byrne, development manager with Al Nair, the developer. You heard from Mike Gillette. He's with Gateway, our civil engineer for the project. And then Lauren Wright is with Piper O'Brien, our project architect. And it's good to be back here before you tonight to talk about this. If you recall, going back to early last year, we were before you a few times to talk about a multifamily concept on the site. And if you've observed, the plan has evolved substantially from our original concept, which was larger scale, denser. It was 250 units. We're at 180 now. It was 4-story, larger massing with a structured parking garage, units wrapped around. And just as kind of a recap of how we got here, we through the planning process last year, it became clear that that concept wasn't going to work just based on some restrictions in the zoning ordinance, some comments from town council, and some public commentary. So at that point, we took a big step back and really worked to reimagine the concept here that would address concerns
as well as align closer to the established regulations in the zoning ordinance. And through that work is how we arrived at this revised plan. In that pivot, one of the most important considerations for us was still maintaining the same standard in terms of a Class A luxury product, still maintaining the same amenity program, exterior materials, interior finishes, and providing the same types of services and management program that our original vision planned for. And we have maintained that in the plan. Actually, we've expanded our amenity program with this plan, which we can talk through some. But yeah, we're this plan is something we're very excited about, and myself, our entire project team. We've been working closely with Seth, planning staff, with Peters, and all of the reviewing agencies. With sewage planning, our flows are going before board next week. We've been working with DEP on our NPDS permit and PennDOT with HOP, and we're nearing closer to approval for those permits. So yeah, we're heavily invested in this, but really excited about the potential for this project and what it can bring to the community in terms of a new housing product that doesn't currently exist. So yeah, with that, Mike, maybe you could walk through the site plan.
Yeah, so one of the things you kind of were alluding to was what the site amenities were. So I'll talk exterior amenities, and then I'll turn it over to Lauren, who can kind of talk through what we're planning on the interior side. So you talk walkability. We will have sidewalks that traverse the entire plan to access every building. In addition to that, we're proposing a sidewalk along Waterdam Road, which will provide a connection from the northern retail all the way down to the Primrose development. We do have a couple site amenities, including a dog park between buildings 1 and 2, currently proposed, which we're committed to. And then in addition to that, we've kicked around a couple different options for different type of exterior site amenities down in this lower out parcel. It was previously an out parcel. It's going to be part of this consolidation. We're still committing to making that a site amenity along with the other, but we just don't know what that looks like at this point. We've kicked around a couple things. You'll see one of the conditions that was the township put in was that we would go through and show the plan to them prior to finalizing it.
Right.
So, I don't know if you have anything in mind as far as what we're proposing in this area.
Yeah, preliminarily, we've planned for a pickleball court or 2, and maybe that becomes 1 with bocce and the permanent cornhole sets, but that type of outdoor recreational space that we think would be a nice feature for the community, obviously, but also kind of activate that parcel that fronts Waterdam in a nice way.
Yeah, and if it's not something like that, it's going to function as something like a parklet, something that will be a community feature essentially for the residents that are there. So that's that from the site perspective. Seth mentioned we will have a pool with some outdoor amenities, some seating obviously there. There's a covered outdoor indoor space that leads up into, I believe right now we're proposing a gym, right, Lauren? I think. Let's see. So here's a nice isometric rendering that Lauren probably, if you want to talk a little bit about the building, I'll
so
skip through.
Really the intent behind this with the variation of colors and materials is to break up the mass. There are about 11,250 square foot footprints on average between the 5 different buildings that make up the 180 units. It is split 50-50 between 1 and 2 bedroom units. One of the things we like to do is bring in natural materials such as the stone along the base level, and then we start to work with cementitious panels of different colors and orientation to help break up the mass, including the insets having a more warm feel of like a wood kind of tone of a cementitious panel. We did, I think in our original design a while ago, we had more of a flat roof modern approach. This time we recognize there's a little bit more of a residential feel for this scale. At the taller type of building, it made sense to have a very contemporary feel. This one we think harkens back more towards a residential building. So we tried to pull residential elements that you find, especially that are in style now, if you will, such as vertical boards, hopefully darker windows, something that gives it a little bit more depth, if you will. We clearly show the entries each little pod. They're all kind of designed as pods. So 4 units kind of wrap around it and move in through its own separate entry. And then really on the site planning perspective, the way the buildings lay out, we're really trying to reinforce the internal part of the community with the orientation of where the pool's located, how the dog park utilizes a certain portion of the backside of one building versus the internal part where the pool is, which goes right into some other amenities. This is an amenity building. Right-hand side, for example, would be your entry into the leasing office. As a taller space, very welcoming. It runs adjacent to one of the units. To the left of that really is the lounge area, where we have a covered area that has a feature wall that probably have a TV and some grills, and then further back we have another grilling area that is a covered structure on the opposite side of the pool. So really the idea of building, more of a plaza type approach to this to really build community within this development. As you can see, even looking back, the building that is more towards water dam that is strategically placed along where the setback is in the buffer for the stream really kind of encloses that to really keep that feel of space but still give it some presence towards water dam. So it's not just looking at building ends. We felt that was a pretty important move. It still harkens back to the idea of the required setbacks up being even eliminated. I still want to give some face there, but it is low enough and far enough back that it doesn't overdo the sense of scale with other residential. So a lot of effort went into understanding that when we laid out those buildings. I think that, yeah, if you go back to that previous one, yeah, on this side, just adjacent to the pool is where the gym area is. It overlooks into it. Again, building a sense of community. Every unit has its own balcony, so that's helpful also to tie towards the community size. And they're not just I can barely get out there with a chair. These are decent sized balconies, 6 by 10 roughly, so you can actually set a table and enjoy out.
What's the square footage of the one bedroom versus the two bedroom?
They're about 750. Well, I don't know what you're going to advertise, but it's about 730 to 750 for one bedroom. We run up to about 1050, 1080, I think is where we're right now.
Yeah, roughly blended between the ones and twos. We're about 950, 960
Correct.
square feet average unit size.
Mm-hmm.
We have some one bedrooms that are as large as 825 square feet.
Right.
And then I think our largest two bedroom is close to 1,200 square feet.
Are the occupied structures all in Peters Township, or is it a? Okay.
Yes.
So everything's on the Peters side.
That site boundary is right along the stream.
Okay.
So this is that out parcel. This is going to be Lot 1A that we just reviewed. Lot 1B is all.
Okay.
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but your entire limit of disturbance is fully within Peters Township.
Correct. Yep.
I think that kind of covers the architectural side.
Yeah, thanks.
Can I just ask, what's the thinking behind some covered but not all covered? I know why you wouldn't have all covered, obviously.
Yeah.
But why have some covered?
Introduce some.
Yeah.
That really came out of our market research and understanding the local market and nationally, talking to some of our trusted partners that operate garden-style developments. There really is a demand to have some level of covered parking. And even looking around the Pittsburgh Metro and suburban developments, there's just about every comp has either detached garages at some level, and it's typically falls between 20 and 30% of their total parking, or carports. And so it's really kind of a market-driven thing that we think that we need to have to compete with competition and check that box.
Now, will it be something where, are people buying specific spots, or is it a first come, first serve?
The idea with the carports is there would be a monthly fee.
And you get that as part of
those would be assigned spots that.
Versus the rest of them, you just kind of get with your apartment?
Right.
Okay, so it's like an upgrade?
It is
Okay,
upgrade.
okay.
Pat, I better not get any calls. Somebody took my parking space.
Yeah,
You go to him.
right. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So you don't have any renderings of the carports. Are they open-ended, shed roof? What's the look of it?
Yeah, I think we did actually include one in our last land development.
There is a detail in the land development plans. We can work on pulling those up, Dave.
But the basis is open-ended.
Open-ended?
Yeah.
Yeah, cantilever style, I believe, right? So-
Like a shed, or?
No, not a shed, more of like
It's like a MAPES canopy.
It's kind of an aesthetic feature, I would say. It's definitely not an eyesore.
Yeah, I mean, we're recognizing that they are visible and there needs to be a level of quality to them.
Will there be much, will there be any fill have to leave the property? Or are you able to build this without having to move fill outside the perimeter?
We're close to balance right now. We're looking at a little bit of export, but there's a few properties that we've looked at nearby that we were considering potentially hauling off to. So still works.
Elevation of these buildings, will the sight line, would you be able to see it from 19 Water Dam or Galley?
So that's a good question. We're actually required to reestablish a riparian buffer along this stream. So as part of that requirement, this entire slope, there's about 40 foot of fill here coming up to our site. That's all going to be planted with trees pretty densely. And then in the back end, we have a pretty dense existing pine tree buffer between the retail property to the north and our property itself.
So all the dark green is actual trees, all the dark green?
Trees, exactly.
And that white building to the top left, is that Ace Hardware?
Yeah. This is Ace,
Yeah. Is all the green going to be new plantings, or are you retaining some of what's already there?
So this existing buffer will be maintained. You can kind of see it in this area.
Yep.
There is a very, very dense vegetated area kind of in that adjacent Lot 1B, which will no longer be part of this development, obviously. There's a bit of a vegetated buffer here in this existing wetland area in this area. So I think from a screening perspective, this is going to be pretty low. I think if you guys recall, we did put some drive-bys on some of the larger massing that we did when we were going towards that larger unit. That was about a year ago at this point. We were barely visible with that. We're going down another story with these. These are 3-story units. You're really not going to have really any visuals on this. You may see as you drive down Water Dam a glimpse of this building, but it's going to be pretty aesthetically pleasing. I would say it's not going to look like a compound.
Oh, sure, yeah. But all of the plantings, everything's not virgin, everything's not new. There's some of this it's not going to take 20 years to get right. Okay.
There's mature trees.
Can I ask what the price points are for the units? Approximate numbers are fine.
Yeah, I mean, the multifamily rents are pretty dynamic, but right now we're on average close to $2 a square foot. So just on our smallest one bedroom in the $1,500 to $1,600 range, and on the largest 2 bedrooms, we're over $2,000 a month.
Okay.
$2,200.
And that's going to be all inclusive?
That's in today's rent. By the time this is
understood.
leased up, it'll be spring, summer of 2025, hopefully.
And aside from getting one of those, one of the covered parking spaces, everything's all inclusive then, like you get used to the pool and the amenities and all that kind of stuff?
All of the amenities, some of the utilities will be sub-metered and reimbursed, but that is typical of...
Right. I mean more for like the reasons you'd want to live there. Okay.
Maybe I didn't hear. Out of the 180 units, how many are singles and how many are doubles?
I would just say that my daughter lived in State College, a lot of community-based things like this, and I would say one of the nicest things that you can do in those places is find places for people to sit outside and maybe do nothing other than that. I don't know that everybody needs always to be entertained, but people who live in apartment buildings, the issue is they can't go outside anywhere. There's nowhere to sit. Right.
You have to make sure these are dog-friendly apartments too. If you're going to have a dog park, the unit's got to be dog-friendly.
Do the units have gathering, like each building have gathering areas at all, or is it just the?
It's just for the extra.
Okay.
The goal is to bring them into the amenity space.
Yeah, okay.
What demographic are you targeting? Older, middle, young?
It's really mixed. I mean, we've done extensive internal research as part of our market analysis, and then we hired an outside firm to really do a comprehensive market analysis and understand our renter profile a little more. But really, it's we expect there's going to be a good portion of younger demographic that maybe grew up in Peters Township, went away to school, and want to come back to the community that they're familiar with, but they're not in a position yet to buy a home, and there's just not an option for them.
And their parents won't let them move in.
Right, yeah, or don't want them to be in.
Right.
And we expect there to be a decent amount of downsizing. I think it will be a mix, but the most compelling thing here is the lack of supply. I mean, really in suburban Pittsburgh of multifamily, especially in the South Hills and this area, it's really been underserved for many years. And you're just looking at the population growth and the amount of single lots and single family homes developed here. And you look at specifically Peters Township, the population growth over the last 10 years compared to, other comparable communities, other Allegheny County compared to Washington County alone, there's a lot of population growth. And there's just a wide gap of the housing diversity. And so we have no concerns with this being absorbed relatively quickly just because of that constrained supply.
And speaking to Pat's point, I talk to people all the time. Our new developments come online. They hear patio homes are an option. They call me. They're asking about price. And when the number hits them, they're like, this is unbelievable.
It's insanity, yeah.
But, a first floor, $1,500 a month, one bedroom apartment for an empty nester who's ready to downsize, I think that would be very attractive.
Given options, yeah.
You can't afford the $700,000 patio home.
Great. For downsizing purposes?
Downsizing.
Yeah. Seth, can I ask about, I have two questions. First is there like a guest parking area, or will people have like permits within, like where do guests park?
We'll have designated spaces along the leasing office where there will be, a handful of spaces there for prospective tenants to come in and,
But say their guests arriving, they would just park by whatever, near the closest to the apartment.
Okay, so it's not going to be an
No, we're not going
assigned.
to force them to one area and take them walk to the site, right?
Yeah, but there'll be,
Especially when it's 7 degrees.
and even if it's all like permitted, like everybody has a tag or whatever, you can get guest ones or whatever, so if people have somebody come and stay or come and stay overnight, you'll be able to find a
Subject
place.
to the first come, first served bill.
Yep, okay.
Of the units.
So the whole sidewalk thing.
Yep.
So how's that going to work? Is that going to, the sidewalk will go to a certain point and then within, okay, and then people are on their own?
If people are on their own, or if at some point in time Grande Plaza comes in for redevelopment, which that could happen at some point in the near future, we say, look, we've got a sidewalk to connect into. Let's continue this pedestrian amenity and interconnect our retail and residential areas.
Okay.
I think there's a guardrail most of the way down there, so that's a good protection.
Along Water Dam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean a guardrail for people to go inside of that to walk the rest of the way?
Just safety guardrail.
Yeah.
And this.
Yeah, because they drive pretty quick.
The conversation might not stop at waiting for Grande to redevelop. We might have an opportunity to say, hey, we've got a sidewalk here. Maybe we can't get a concrete sidewalk in, but can we get some type of trail or just a clear access into your
Right, because I mean, part of the benefit to this is that if you wanted to, you could walk to Mondays, you can walk to, that's what, if anybody is looking to live in apartments, they want to be able to go places without driving. I guess just the way, there's no way to have some sort of walking way, back way into like any of these plazas, it's just not possible, right?
Yeah, that you're going to the back end.
Yeah.
If you try to get back into ACE or anything, that would just.
It'd just be too much.
You didn't mention anything about the lighting for the whole complex. I assume it's all down lighting.
It's all down lighting LED. The typical poles, I believe they're 25 footers. We did submit a photometrics plan. There was a couple minor comments to that, but we'll make a couple minor adjustments. But we basically built it to meet the code.
Is there any way to connect the sidewalking to Primrose for anybody that has young, so people could walk?
I can certainly look at it. There's not a sidewalk there to tie into.
It's so
It's gonna
close,
get
it
you
seems
real
almost
close
too
to that
bad.
Parking lot, yeah.
It just seems almost, because that would be another place for a young family. And with the daycare right there, it'd be too
And then,
bad if there wasn't a way to at least connect that. Somebody can get close, but they can't.
You can see how they, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, did you have them pay a fee in lieu of when they did their development?
I don't recall. Primrose was developed and approved right before I started here.
It's been there longer than we think, yeah. Yeah, it'd just be nice if there was a way to at
No,
least
I
connect that
completely agree.
property with the
No,
sidewalk.
You can tell they stubbed in their
Very
parking
close.
lot, so we might be able to have an opportunity to do something around
To do
it.
something that way, if just something to look at.
If residents go there, they will carve their own path. There will be.
I just meant one that may be safe for
They
babies
call them
and young
desire
children.
paths, it's where you want to go.
Speaking of State College, that's how they build their sidewalks.
Yep.
They just wait until the grass starts dying in certain paths and then they pave it.
Yep.
That's legitimately what they do.
And then the sidewalks get dirty, so they walk in the grass some more.
And then another sidewalk, yeah. It's traffic control.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Seth, the interior of these buildings, is it all sprinkler?
Yes.
And those will be fully reviewed and approved by the township's building plans examiner prior to the building permit issuance for each one of the units. Township Fire Department will have input on that approval process. I don't expect many issues with that. I think it's largely going to come down to, we know what we're doing for the first building, and the rest of the floor, we've got a really good idea going into it.
Sure.
You'll build them all at once and then just start?
Yeah, they'll be staggered by a few months.
Okay.
So we'll probably lease one or two buildings before the other three, but, within 4 or 5 months, they'll be completed in total.
But whoever buys or rents in Building 1 isn't going to have to wait 3 years until Building 5 is done to be able to get a pool and all those kind of things, right? Okay.
The amenity courtyard in Building 3 will be delivered with the first phase, if we break it into phases.
Sure, okay,
Right.
okay.
Any more questions for the applicants?
Nope.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, did you want to elaborate on anything? Seth said maybe, but I don't need to hear anything unless the committee does. Good,
Dave, we're going to answer your question real quick.
Going to show that,
I'm going to find it.
Or a photometrics plan?
No.
Or the car
Covered
parts?
part. It's in here.
Yeah, it should be on the construction details.
It's in this thing.
I know I saw it.
so, I don't think that's really necessary. Appreciate it, but if it doesn't come up,
Don't hurt yourself, Seth.
That's just the front, that's all. It's in one of these sheets.
Are you done?
he's on a
He's
mission.
on a
giving up.
He's going to
You
find
can
it.
just admit defeat and move on.
There it is. You should pass it bottom right.
there it is. Yeah.
This is a basic design, so it may not be this exact,
Color,
yeah, it might not be this exact product, but it's going to be something of this nature.
Do you expect it to be open all the way around then?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Well worth it.
Well, now we're good, huh?
Okay, not hearing any more comments, questions, or concerns. Could I hear an action motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for planning commission recommendation for the Water Dam Galley multifamily
It's
site.
final
plan.
approval. It's approval.
It's saying recommendation on the memo though. That's what I thought.
yeah, I get you.
Planning commission approval for the Water Galley multifamily site plan, subject to the conditions listed in Seth's memo dated June 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Okay, good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Have a great evening.
Do you want these back? Do
You
you want these back for?
sure?
Yeah, no, we're
If you
good.
need them.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
I have like 8 other. Nobody wants
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
So Seth, anything else do you want to
Just 2 items.
cover about the meeting?
As it relates to Cohen, just orient yourselves, there's a public officials meeting on Wednesday, June 21st, I believe, in this room, regarding the Bebout East McMurray Road intersection improvement, Thompsonville as well, the other leg on that project. So just, if you're interested in attending, we'd love to have you. Jim and I will be here, if not for all of it, most of it.
When's that going to happen? Not the meeting,
So the
the
actual-
project, yeah.
So we're hearing that they're going to let the project later this year. We expect, that means construction may start sometime next year.
Just trying to kill all of us that live on Bebout. So once we get through the Bebout to Valley Brook intersection, then we can,
It's like a big Band-Aid, just rip it all off.
adding a 30 minutes.
The way that project's pacing right now, this one might be done before the roundabout's done.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong about that.
I know.
Trails closed until further notice, despite the fact that, that parking that's right there. and there's-
That was my call, because the construction vehicles were like using it. I was like, we should just, because I expected them to just keep working, but then they stopped, and I was like, okay.
Do you know there's not been one person parked in there in 3 weeks? So there's a big sign that says, "Don't park here," but
I know, I'm sorry.
just saying.
So noted.
The CR overlay, we had that public hearing Monday night, passed unanimously by council. We had a couple individuals in here advocating that properties remain in the overlay. The 40-plus acres owned by Mr. Mark Miller on Bebout Road, that kind of connects into his 370 acres that's under the mixed residential overlay. It was just that 40 acres is under the conservation residential overlay. I expect he may be coming in sometime in the near future requesting a rezoning for either the CR, because the CR still exists, or to have the rest of that property zoned mixed residential overlay, just to provide that connection down to Bebout Road. We had an individual advocate for the properties on McClellan, but ultimately nothing was kept, and the ordinance passed as proposed.
Which is what we said, case by case.
Either case by case on individual property rezoning requests, or as part of the comprehensive plan, we come up with some type of objective criteria to at least analyze these properties under, to help give us guidance when someone does come in to make a request.
Right.
That's it.
Okay, anything else?
That's all.
Meeting's adjourned.